So 20th Century Fox has acquired the rights to a Magic the Gathering movie? Talk about the 90s really coming back. But before we get to this video, here is the 90s question of the day. Alright, so apparently 20th Century Fox has now acquired the screen rights, the movie rights to Magic the Gathering franchise. And reportedly they want to turn this thing into like this epic film series along the lines of Harry Potter or the Lord of the Rings movies. And this has potential, basically. Now, Magic the Gathering began as a trading card series in like 1993, so over 20 years ago. And to give you some background, Magic the Gathering was basically, it was like the trading card game of our time, of my generation. Especially kids who grew up in the early 90s and in the mid 90s, you know, so like 93 to 96. That was, kids really like were into it, you know, that generation of, you know, nerdy kids, geeks, and just people that are into the trading card thing. And that's not like no disrespect, but that's where the kids that played it back then, they were into that that fantasy trading card stuff. So I was definitely exposed to it a little bit. You know, I wasn't really a member of those groups, but there was enough that I saw, and I had those cards, you know, myself back in the 90s. Anyway, you know, it's funny because the Magic the Gathering franchise, I should say the card series, they were, I believe, by Wizards of the Coast. You know, that was the manufacturer, the publisher, the people that made it. And then they're the ones that ended up also creating the Pokemon cards, which in the late 90s, you know, 98, 99, was the biggest trading card game. It really took over. You know, like Magic the Gathering was the number one, you know, fantasy style trading card game. And it was like a battle system too. It was like a combat tournament style type of card game. You know, the characters had stats, health points or whatever, hit points. There's the mana or whatever, the magic, I think. And they all had their little backstories. You know, they had characters and creatures and all these type of folklore, you know, these magical creatures. And then Pokemon took over in the late 90s, you know, when Pokemon came over. And was really the basis. Magic the Gathering was the basis of that card series. Pretty much any, you know, popular card series that was like a battle tournament style thing. I mean, I've reviewed a few of them, you know, like Chaotic card series, and, you know, even I think the Moshi Monsters, even that kind of thing. You know, Yu-Gi-Oh! There's another one, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card series. So, all these card series that became popular in the past 15, 16 years owe a lot to Magic the Gathering. You know, Magic was really the core of those particular card series. Anyway, Fox has basically enlisted Simon Kinberg as the producer. He's involved with X-Men Days of Future Past and the Star Wars Rebels TV show. And this is basically just the rights, acquiring the rights to the franchise. It doesn't mean that there's going to be an actual film. Apparently they're making some kind of Warcraft movie, and that's in the works. And they also showed, you know, examples of films or potential films that would have been made but were not, you know, were not finished. They were not actually produced in the end. Halo was not produced. It was supposed to be a Sims movie for some reason. A Sims movie? Why would he even make something like that? I just don't even see that like working, you know, a Sims film. But anyway, a Halo film could work, you know, and that could still be something that would be a fine piece of CGI. Yeah, I mean, as far as the storytelling and the creatures that's involved, I mean, you just don't know. I think they had a Dungeons and Dragons movie way back in the day, you know, and it just wasn't great, you know. Certain folklore, I just don't know. this is very different. Magic the Gathering, it's not exactly Harry Potter or, you know, Lord of the Rings that have a narrative to follow. Those have a very definitive beginning, middle, end plot, you know, and we're very familiar with it. We understand it. We've read the novels, and we kind of, it's like right there. We can just pick up the books and read the source material. With Magic the Gathering, it's almost like, okay, but it's just based on a card game. And I'm sure it's got their own little storylines and stuff like that, but who's gonna know that? Who's gonna know the backstories, you know? Like, aside from the people that played those card games. I mean, unless you're one of those kids that had, you know, like 1,000 deck set or more, you know, like some kids back then would have like 2,000 set decks. The creatures would have their own little stories and plot lines. I don't know. Bringing back stuff from the 90s is not necessarily a good thing. I want to do a future video about this where, you know, this stupid trend where they always have to bring stuff back from 20 years ago for some reason. Like the 2000s had an 80s revival, and now in the 2010s there's a 90s revival. So I just kind of shake my head like, ugh, is there any more originality left? You know, Magic the Gathering movie. I just don't see this being a big thing. I just don't understand. I can't see it making a lot of money and drawing in a big audience as far as the people, you know, beyond the people that play the card game, I guess. Who's gonna really be into this? I mean, Magic the Gathering movie. And here's the answer to the 90s question of the day.